Hi, I'm Tricia at Club Scrap and welcome to the Freeway Card Kit workshop. We'll be making 12 really fun, masculine, modern style cards today. And the process will be that we'll sort through the papers first, then trim all of them, everything needed for all 12 cards. Then we'll score the papers, we'll stay organized that whole entire time, and I'll show you how to assemble each card structure. It's gonna be a fun time, so let's get started. I've got my instructions printed and ready to go here, my Freeway Card Kit. I am going to be setting aside all of the ribbon and the envelopes for now. We will definitely be using those envelopes a little bit later. And you'll notice that I have a Fisker's guillotine style trimmer here. If you don't have this, and if you don't have one of my Accordion pocket file organizers, I recommend both of these things because it really makes life easier. And this organizer has a little lip on the front of it. So I'm gonna place that under the base of my trimmer, which then holds it vertically so that we can stay organized by placing everything into one of these 4 pockets, A, B, C, or D. I usually use the D pocket for things I didn't use for the cards. Now I have a little kit and a video that helps you make one of those, so I'm gonna put the link to that in my description below. And let's get started by sorting our papers. I like to hold them upright while I'm doing the sort, and I want you to find one sheet of the plain white paper. So when you find that, just make sure it's plain on both sides. Then we're gonna locate one sheet of gold, one sheet of gray, and one sheet of that blue. It's a nice dusty blue. Let's repeat that. Go for the white, gold, gray, and blue. 2 sheets of black, 1, 2. And then you're gonna find the 2 prints, and these can just go face down. So there's 2 text weight prints in there. For Cutaparts, find the sheet that has the instructions on it, on this edge with a little Easel card image, put that face down. And then finally, your last sheet of Cutaparts. And as I mentioned, we will be trimming all of this, so just hang in there with me during this process. It can be a little bit tedious, but it's so worth it, okay? The efficiency is gonna shine here. And I want you to be thinking about the fact that you can recycle everything that we did with papers that you may already have in your stash and recreate more cards in this fun style. You'll have to stamp the sentiments, of course, but yeah, this is really cool. All right, so let's take a sheet of this white, and before we cut it, we need to know the direction of the grain for this paper. So in case you don't know how to do that, just a quick refresher, hold it by the center of an edge, and then flop it around, see how floppy it feels. Then hold it by the center of another edge, and then see how floppy that feels. Now, some of this white is a little harder to tell, but I can definitely, this is quieter, this is noisier, this is less resistant, this is more floppy. So when I place this in my trimmer, I want it to flop from the top of the trimmer to the bottom. I want it bending easily this way. And you can also learn about that by looking at the arrow on the instructions for step 1. We're gonna trim the white and the gold at the same time, so I need to find the grain direction of this. Make sure it's flopping easily from the top of the trimmer to the bottom, bending easily that way. And now stack the papers neatly. If you want to just do 1 sheet at a time, that's fine. Just rewind the video to this point so you can start again and work with 1 sheet at a time. But the cool part is that we can do this. It's so efficient that way. Our first cut is going to be at 10.5, and I would just like to remind you that that is between the 10 and the 11. Using those columns as my guide, it's 2 columns to the left of the 10. Then I got to make sure the paper is lined up with the edge of that top of my trimmer base here, that little guide, and then push down firmly on the clear bar, especially because we have 2 sheets of paper here. And then we'll move all the way down to 6 1/4. So 6, and then go 1 column to the left to find 6 1/4. Now rotate the paper that's in the trimmer and also leave everything else you cut, leave it lay where it lands. And I'm gonna cut at 11.5 and 9. Now before I file these 2 pieces, these are going to grow up to be card bases. I want to score them. So I'm going to set these aside in a pile to be scored later. And then this other little piece that fell, I'm going to put that in pocket B, Bravo. And then there's some really little piece that fell. I'm also going to put that in B, Bravo. And then we have this other piece that's 4 1/4 by 12. We'll trim this at 10.5. and 5.5. Now this larger piece, this 5.5-inch piece, that goes in pocket A. And then we have this rectangle that needs to be scored. And there's also a little piece that fell from the end. I'm gonna pop that in D because I didn't necessarily use that. And finally, you have this long strip. I'll trim it at 7 and place the strip in pocket C, Charlie. This final little strip is a scrap. I'll place it in D, David. We could do that all one more time with 2 more sheets of paper. So I'm gonna grab my gray, make sure it bends easily from top to bottom. And this heavier blue, it just feels like I have more than one sheet here. One blue, dipping easily from top to bottom. First cut, again, is at 10.5, 6 1/4. Rotate and cut at 11.5 and 9. Set this aside to be scored. And then this rectangle and the little strips, all of it goes in B, Bravo. I'll pick up the next piece, trim at 10.5 and 5.5. Place this piece in pocket A. The rectangle needs to be scored. And this smaller piece is a scrap for pocket D. And finally, this long strip will trim at 7. And place this larger piece in C, Charlie, the smaller one in D, David. Congratulations, you've completed step 1. So we did 4 papers one way. Now we're going to do the 4 more papers another way. So I'm going to take this sheet, find my dippy side, it's this way. The white is just always a little harder. Okay, now the gold is much easier. Okay, we're going to stack these neatly together and trim at 11 1/4 and 7. Rotate the 7-inch piece so it's horizontal and cut at 8. This larger piece needs to be scored, set it aside. There's a rectangle that fell that will trim at 6. This piece goes in pocket C, Charlie, and then we have this little piece. We can throw it in D, David. Now, listen carefully on this next strip. We will start out at 8 1/4. 4.5. Now rotate the 4.5-inch piece so it's vertical. And we're going to cut at 2. And then take the 2-inch piece, rotate it again, and cut at 4 1/4. Wow, that was a journey. But what we just did here is really clever. So we have this larger piece and the smaller piece. That's going to nest together perfectly. It's so neat. All of this goes in pocket B, Bravo. There are going to be 2 really tiny scraps. You can throw those out. And then you have 2 sets of rectangles. Those get set aside to be scored. And this long narrow strip, you can place it in pocket D if you like. Let's repeat all of that one more time. So check your grain, dipping from the top of the trimmer to the bottom for both the gray and the blue. And then we'll stack neatly and trim at 11 1/4 and 7. Rotate the 7-inch piece and trim at 8. This large piece needs to be scored. Grab the small piece that fell and we'll cut at 6. This larger piece goes in pocket C, Charlie, and you got some little guys for D, David. This next strip here, trim at 8 1/4 and 4.5. Now rotate this 4.5-inch piece and trim at 2. Rotate the 2-inch piece and trim at 4 1/4. So once again, you've created the nestables for pocket B And then you did make two really little scraps. I don't even see one of them right now. I can get rid of those. Then these other rectangles, those need to be scored. You have a long, narrow strip for pocket D. Okay, there's my other little gray scrap. Set that aside. Now take one sheet of the black. This time we don't have to concern ourselves with the grain direction at all because the black will not be folded. So let's go ahead and cut this at 8.5 and 4 1/4. I'll rotate that 4 1/4 inch piece and trim at 9, 6, and 3. The 4 pieces you just made that are all the same size, pocket A, alpha. Then let's cut at 10 on the next strip, 10. If you need the measurement, it's 4 1/4 by 12. Trim at 10, 7.5, 5, and 2.5. All of these pieces, including the one that's a little smaller, they all go in pocket A. Pick up the next sheet of black. This is 3.5 by 12. We'll cut at 9, 6, and 3. Gather up the 4 pieces that are all the same for pocket C, Charlie. There's another sheet of black. This one will be trimmed differently. The first cut is going to be at 10, and you don't need to worry about the grain direction. And then 5 3/4. Rotate, cut at 8 and 4. There are 3 pieces you just created that are the same size going into pocket B, bravo. The next piece, trim at 10, 8, 6, listen carefully, 5 3/4. Then rotate the piece in the trimmer and cut it at 4. So you just made another rectangle for pocket B. You got some little scraps here I'll get rid of. And then these 3 rectangles that are the same for pocket A. Put this piece in pocket A as well. We're going to be modifying that a little bit later. Now we are at the print. Take just one print, and it really doesn't matter how it goes in the trimmer, any old way. And we'll cut at 11.5, 7.5, 3 3/4. Now if you want, you can take the piece that's in your trimmer and the piece that just fell. They are the same size. Trim them horizontally at 11.5 and 5 3/4. It gives you 4 panels of the same size for pocket C, Charlie, and 2 really little scraps. The next piece, let's trim at 11, 8 1/4, 5.5, 2 3/4. The 4 pieces that are the same size go in pocket A, and there will be a little piece that fell from the end, plus this little scrap here. Get rid of those, and then grab the other print. Let's trim this at 11.5, 7.5, and 3 3/4. So you have 2 pieces here, the one that you just made and the one that just fell, that are the same. Stack them neatly together, and this time trim at 11 and 5.5. All 4 of these go in pocket B, bravo. This other piece from the end here will trim at 9, 6 3/4, 4.5, 2 1/4. You've made 4 pieces the same, and there's one larger one left over. So the 4 that are the same, those go in pocket A. Lots going into A. And then the other little single piece D David, and then here you have some really small scraps to just get rid of. We've arrived at our cut apart sheet, and it is necessary for us to remove a little piece, a little edge from each edge, and there's a little plus sign in each corner. That is your guide. Now the goal is to line up that guide with the outside edge of your silver blade. But the first time I do this, the paper is just a little too big for me to see that guide as accurately as I want. So I just cut shy of the guide and rotate the paper. And now I can line it up. I can see the edge here and there. Give it a little snip, rotate, and trim. Each edge needs to be cleaned up, and that way we're going to start out with a reliable 12 by 12. Because sometimes on those gigantic commercial trimmers, you just can't get it perfect enough to where it, sometimes it can cause things to not flow right, like a butterfly effect. Now, we're going to make sure that when we start trimming our 12 by 12, that with all the edges removed, that these little diagrams are on the right. And let's begin at 10 3/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. Now rotate, and we're going to cut on every even number. So 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2. And gather all those up going into pocket A. As I mentioned, lots in A. The next strip here, we're going to start out at 10 and then go to 7 1/2, 5, and 2 1/2. All of these, except for that one on the bottom, the skinnier one. The skinny one goes in B, bravo, and all the rest of these larger ones, A. Again, all of them in A. The next strip we'll cut at 11, 8 1/4, 5 1/2, 2 3/4. There are 4 that are the same for pocket C, Charlie, and there is a little scrap that I ended up using in card set B, bravo. Now let's trim our instructions. We'll cut at 9, 6, and 3. And these are all for pocket A again. We're moving on now to the second and final sheet of Cutaparts. This is the last thing we have to trim. So I'll do my first cut a little shy of that line again, and the second one, if I can see, I'll line it up. And just kind of rotate your way on through until all those edges are cleaned up and you have a nice 12 by 12. You can get rid of all of your little scraps and position the print so it is like on mine, with the arrows here on the top, thank yous down on the lower right. And our first cut here is going to be at 8 and 4. Rotate the 4-inch piece and trim at 9, 6, and 3. And all of these are gathered up and placed in pocket C, Charlie. Next up, it should say most thank you cards on the right. We'll start at 10 1/4, 8 1/2, 6 3/4, 5, and 2 1/2. So the first 2 pieces, they go in pocket B, bravo. The final 4 pieces go in pocket A. Those are all the same size, and A continues to grow. Thank you should be on the right. We have a little scrap that we're going to take off the end. So that's at 11 1/2, 10 3/4. These are really little. 10, 9 1/4, 8 1/2, 6 3/4, 5, 3 1/4, bear with me, 1 1/2, Oh goodness. Now rotate the 1.5. And you can do this. We're gonna go 3, 2, just use your index finger, especially here. 1, use your index finger to hold it. Look at that. All right, we can take all of these little guys. Those are gonna go in B, bravo. Then we've got the next 4 narrow ones. Those go in B, bravo. And the final little skinny guys back in A. And that concludes all of the trimming. Congratulations. I'm gonna lock my trimmer blade. I'm gonna support the accordion pocket file that I have in front of me. I'll just pull it off the trimmer and then lay it on its back from now on. And then set that trimmer aside and swap this for a score pal. Now here's that big pile of stuff I'd set aside to be scored. So I've got that here, my score pal. I'm gonna be using a round tip metal stylus to do the scoring instead of the little tool that comes in the thing. This right now measures 4 1/4 by 3 3/4, and these have to be in vertically. So it should say 3 3/4 here and 4 1/4 there. We need to score these at 1 1/4 and 2 1/2. And you'll see this is divided now into 3 equal sections. This is a really heavy cardstock, so just make sure that it's firm, your pressure is firm enough on that to give me a good score line. On the other side, it should have a nice bump that you can see clearly. If not, just make another pass. That's all you have to do. I'm gonna grab this gray. Again, the measurement is the same. It's 1 1/4 and 2 1/2. There's another blue, 1 1/4, 2 1/2. There's another gray, 1 1/4, 2 1/2. Now just sneak down in your pile a little bit. You're gonna find the same sizes in the gold and the white, vertically again, 1 1/4, 2 1/2. Be a little more gentle on the white, 1 1/4, 2 1/2. That paper is not quite as heavy or dense. Then the gold, 1 1/4, 2 1/2. And the final white, 1 1/4, 2 1/2. Okay, so those get stacked up and you can place them all, guess where? Pocket A. And then we have this big gigantic size here. It's the biggest one we've got. 7 is here, 8 is here. So this is the horizontal position. We're gonna score at 5. Again, that blue is a little heavier. Gray is quite heavy also. Horizontally at 5 on the golds. And then just be a little more gentle with your pressure on the white so you don't break through the paper. All of these go into pocket C, Charlie. Now we have another size piece here. This needs to be in the score pal horizontally. So it should be 5 here and 4 1/4 there. Once you've assured that you got the 5 up at the top, we're gonna score at 2 1/2 and 3 3/4. Grab the next piece, 2 1/2, 3 3/4. Reach down beneath 2 sheets and then find the gold and the white. So the gold, 2 1/2, 3 3/4, and the white, again being more gentle, 2 1/2, 3 3/4. Stack all these up and they're gonna go in pocket A for that triple easel card. Finally, this should be 9 on the horizontal, 6 1/4 down over here. We'll score it in half at 4 1/2. I'm gonna give that another pass. That's just such a heavy stock. 4 1/2 on the gray, 4 1/2 on the gold, and 4 1/2 on the white. All of this goes in pocket B. B, bravo. And that is the last time you need to have that scoring tool out. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this aside. All right, set A. This is what's gonna give us a run for our money, but I promise that once you get these pieces distributed, it's quite easy to create this card, so no worries. The first thing I'm gonna do is just empty the pocket and sort things out by size. There's this large strip here, that's kind of on its own. We got these skinny little sentiments. Oh, you don't need the scrap here, that's a scrap. We've got all kinds of black panels in graduating sizes, small, medium, and large. We've got printed sentiments. Oh my goodness, this is really wild. How many pieces? And then we've got these other sentiments, small, medium, large, our instructions. And then this is where we're gonna start with our card bases. So let's go ahead and take the white unscored piece. That's our first card base. And then we can go with the gold, then gray, and then blue. Now we have those larger pieces that have a wider scored area. Let's go ahead and match those up with the same color base that we had. And then the same for these smaller ones. So I'm just gonna go around and add these other doubles. There's 2 of each of these to go with their matching color. So that's not so bad, right? If you want, we can give each card a set of instructions. And each card will get one of the larger black panels. Just deal it out like cards. A medium black panel and a small black panel. Each card gets a larger printed panel and a smaller printed panel. And now we're dosing out the sentiments. So we'll start out with thank you and thank you and birthday and birthday. Let's go from the larger sentiments. Let's do but this thank you card and but this thank you card. And chase all the beautiful, chase all the beautiful. Now the medium sentiments. Only say thank you once up here. Then the chase joy can go on the other set. And finally we'll have most thank you cards, chase adventure, chase adventure. Now, I don't know about you, but I had 2 extra pieces that I misfiled. These 2 sentiments, hugging you like crazy in my head, those go in pocket B. So I'll slide these over to there. Next, I'm hoping you have a 1-inch circle punch. It's not the end of the road if you don't, but that's where this piece of black comes in. I'm just gonna punch out 4 1-inch circles. This is kind of a staple in most craft cabinets, so I'm hoping you have a 1-inch circle punch. If you don't, it's okay. And then I'm gonna add this gear charm from my goodie pile to the card as well. And I think that completes all of the gazillions of pieces required for these cards. Now I'm gonna find the smallest set of 4 envelopes that you've been given. And I will just take this blue card and place it, all the pieces in the envelope. That's card 4. At least in the instructions, it's ordered as the 4th card. There's 3. The gold one is card 2. And then we will construct the white triple easel card together. First thing I want you to do so it has time to dry is take some of your favorite glue. I'm going to use my bookbinding glue, and I'm going to apply glue to the gear charm. And you could have done this to all the charms kind of in one batch, but we're just making the 1 card. I mean, I guess it's always true that you can make these, do all the things in batches, right? Now, the other thing is, if you have a corner rounding punch, this is the 3-in-1 punch that I carry. You may have gotten one of the previous models. This one was discontinued. This one is the one we have now. They both work the same. I'm going to choose the R4, the radius 4, and otherwise you can just use whatever corner rounder you have, or you can skip this step because it's a lot of rounding. If you choose to round, I'm warning you, it's like you're going to be rounding a lot of corners. So I'm rounding the corners on these sentiments. Maybe we'll do a mix. Maybe we won't round the panels, but we'll round the sentiments. We'll see how that looks. But otherwise, I'm just getting it in there nice and straight and rounding these corners. Ooh, see, that was not straight. Okay. So here we have our prepped things and our card base. I'll get rid of my snips. Let's make our structure now. We have the piece of white that is not scored. Then we have one that is, and I'm going to go ahead and fold on both of these score lines. And then I'll burnish that fold with a bone folder. I think that's kind of ideal here for this process. Then you have the other ones. I'm going to fold on those. Now make sure that you're paying attention to the direction of the score line. Like if it's a bump of the score, that goes on the inside of the fold. And that is contrary to what a lot of card makers believe. So just remember to put the bump of the score line on the inside of the fold, the divot goes on the outside. Now here I have the one piece that has the larger flap. I'm going to use bookbinding glue for this process so it's a little more forgiving. And I'm going to add glue to that wider area, not a whole lot, but just enough. And then I'm going to line up this wide area with the bottom edge of the card so that the rest of this kind of carries upward past the edge, going toward the top of the card. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. And kind of fold that down, and then we have the ones that have the equal size flaps. I'm going to add glue to just one of these flaps, and then I'm going to add it right next to the edge of the first flap. Line it up nice and close. Make sure those edges are aligned. I wish I should have worked with a color just so it's easier to see. And then here now I have 3 scored areas. I'm just going to put glue in one of those scored areas. And then I'm going to nudge it right up next to the previous sector. And that will leave a small, I think like a 1/2 inch area above that is open. So this is the start of my easel card. You see that? It's gonna sit kind of like this. Next up, we've got our instructions. We've got all these panels. So let's get these panels situated. So I'm going to nest the largest print panel onto the black corresponding panel. And that's going to get the sentiment. So I will add adhesive to the sentiment, which says, but this thank you card says thank you 5 times. Then nest the smaller printed panel onto the corresponding medium-sized black panel. And you can add, oops, that's the wrong one, add the medium-sized sentiment to that panel. Ta-da. Then, most thank you cards, this one doesn't have a printed panel. And then you got this, okay? Now, if I just take this card and I open it all the way up, so I bring all of these little flaps up, I'm gonna take the thank you part and add adhesive and place this on the bottom edge so that it's centered left to right, and then match the margin at the bottom. So now my thank you has been added to this flap. Next, I'm going to have the most thank you cards. That's going to be added to the front or the first section of this panel. So now I have to bring that panel forward so that I can see that first tab. I'm going to add adhesive, and then this is going to be attached to that, aligned with the edge on the bottom. That's again why I like to use liquid adhesive, because I can fine tune this. Now here's that second scored thing. I'm going to put glue on the flap, the first tab, the first section, however you want to consider it. And then the medium-sized sentiment will go there, aligned with the bottom edge. And then here's the third one. I'm going to add glue to the front tab. And then this third sentiment will be, I love how these graduate in size. Line it up left to right and bottom. Notice how this goes to the top edge. Flip the card over and you can add your instructions. And this was a little bonus that I decided would be really nice to have for the recipient, because sometimes they don't always know what's going on with these cute little kinetic cards. Lastly, we need a way to make sure, we need a stopper, right? To make sure that this stays upright. And the only way to do that is to give it a little bit of a raised area. So, and you can turn these all open like this, which is kind of nice. This guy comes in here, so I will, and it's just enough of a stopper I'm going to put it as close to the text as I can get it to the thank you, kind of overlapping in that thank you area a little bit. And then I want to let that dry because I don't want it moving and scooting around. So once it is dry, you'll be able to test it. Whereas this will sit in front of that and this will bend behind that. And they always want to pop up at first. It doesn't stay like that though. There you go. Now you've got your easel card. It's looking fabulous. It does want to do that. Now, once these pieces spend some time in their little flat and then they get raised up, they really do perform well. I just find that when I first assemble the card, it kind of wants to pop back down. But once it sits in its home for a little while, it really does like to stay in the easel once you position it. If I try to show you, isn't that cool? I love how it turns out. It's just so easy. And then when I mail it, I tuck in the other sentiments behind so that the first sentiment is on top. Most thank you cards only say thank you once, but this thank you card says thank you 5 times. So fun. And then of course the remaining cards all go together the same way. So you've got the other thank you color variances, and then we have the birthday, chase adventure, happy birthday is here, chase joy, chase all the beautiful things life has to offer. I think that assembly is quite approachable. I hope you feel the same way, and that if you just follow along with the same process, you'll be able to put the remaining 3 cards together in the same exact way. It's going to be so much fun. All right, let's move on to card set B. Begin by emptying out pocket B. We've got a lot of stuff in there too. And we're also going to be using those little black tags that came as embellishments in your kit, and the jute ribbon or fiber. And if you want right away, we can take the jute. It's 2 full yards. So just fold it in half. It might already be folded in half. I'm not sure. And then in half again. So you got 4 equal lengths. I'll take scissors and just trim that. And this way I use only as much, I use it all, but it's gonna be tight. So now we got 4 lengths of ribbon, 4 tags, and I'm just gonna sort all this out a little bit. We have these little tiny arrows. Those will be going onto the tags if you wanna put those together. You got your inner and outer sentiments. A couple of extra random cut apart pieces of art that Jacqueline created. If you're not aware, Jacqueline's our amazing designer. She's been designing for Club Scrap since 2009, which is kind of crazy, but wonderful because she's really a talent. Okay, so we've got these little strips here. So we're gonna put the gold card base out first, then we'll go white, then blue and gray. Each card will receive a strip. So let's put this long gray strip on this yellow card or gold card, then gold, then white, and then the blue. Moving on to a black panel for each card, then a printed panel for each card. I love that, nice and easy. How about a black tag for each card? And then I'll do the yellow arrow here, the black arrow here, the blue arrow, and the gray arrow. We need, from the larger sized panels, we'll go with blue, gray, gold, and white, and then nest them with white, blue, gray, gold. How about a sentiment for each of these? We may not be in hug range right now, 2 of those on the top. And then we've got the happy birthday and happy birthday. Then, but I'm hugging you like crazy in my head with may the adventures continue. I did use a little strip on the inside of these cards, but on this card, I decided the white was a little boring, and I realized that I had a little strip of this print, so I use that instead. So I'm going to put the printed there that came from my scrap pile, the blue here, the gray here, and the gold on this last one. And then I had a couple of these extra little Cutaparts. I used this one on here, and I used the larger one here. And then I can grab the medium-sized envelopes, otherwise known as the A6. So the width of this card should fit right in there. That's card number 4, as shown in the instructions. Then card 3 slides in, and card 2 slides in. And now we have the gold card left. That is our sample to assemble. And even though 2 of these cards are horizontal, 2 are vertical, you'll be able to figure out how it translates. Here's the bump of the score line. I will fold on that and burnish. Okay. The first thing we're going to do is add this strip, and I'll put some adhesive on it. Using my grid ruler, I'll go in about 1/2 inch from the edge of this card, from the right edge, and then rest the piece along the edge of my ruler so that it doesn't go crooked. I don't know if you've ever had that problem. I always glue things downhill, uphill, every which way except straight, so the ruler just remedies that. Now notice that I'm nesting the print onto this black panel. I don't want to put it on the card quite yet. I just want to get everything arranged. I'll grab my R4 corner rounder. This is the inner sentiment. Oh, I just have to get it straight. And then I'll round the outer sentiment too. But I'll just do the sentiment, not the panels, because just in the interest of time. So let me nest. We may not be in hug range right now onto the blue panel. And that's going to be added to the upper right corner of this card. All right, then I definitely want to round the corners of my arrows because the tag is rounded too. And I'm going to have the arrows going like this. Okay. Now, I'm going to take one of the pieces of this ribbon, this jute. I'm going to fold it in half and in half again. Then I'll just squeeze that folded end and I'll bring it through from the front of the tag to the back and thread the tails through the loop. Okay. Just make sure I can get those ends wrapped around to the back. Put adhesive on the back of that tag. Cute. I like to keep my tape in a dispenser. That way I can dispense with one hand. So I'm going to split this fiber up. This end is going to go up and over. And I'll secure that. Oh, I cut it real close. But that's why I divided it ahead of time. So you'd be sure to have enough. Okay, so now, oh, that looks so good. Did you see how easy that was? Easy, easy, easy. Okay, and I think we're talking 1/4 inch on this reveal here. So nice. Now for the inside, a lot of times what I do with this is leave it in its 12-inch length and squiggle some. I know the card ends there, right? And I can still grab my ruler and add the strip. It's nice and level. And then just slice it off with scissors, nice and straight. And then I can add the inner sentiment here. And I can get rid of this little white strip that I didn't use. That was easy, right? So easy. So that's the first one. Then you have the one with the white base. Same thing. then your horizontal. I just arranged it like this. You can arrange it however you want. You can see that I did round the corners. I just went rounding happy, but it was fun, you know? I got all this done, and 4 great, nice masculine cards. I hope you love them. And we are now ready to move on to our final set. It's equally as easy. You're gonna love it. So empty that pocket and get things organized by size. Okay, I think I have things ready to go. We'll start out with the blue card base. Then we'll go white and gray and gold. Those are our card bases. Next up, let's distribute the strips. So I'll add gray, gold, blue, and white. And then we have a panel that's larger. So white, gray, gold, and blue. A printed panel, those are easy to distribute, no color to worry about. Same with a black panel, easy, no color to worry about. Our outer sentiment, so the gold one, wherever you go, the next adventure awaits, and so very sorry for your loss. And finally, we'll do the happy birthdays on the top. We'll go congrats on your retirement, and words seem inadequate on that last one. I'll reach for the A7 white envelope, slide that puppy in for the 4th card. And that's why I always do it in reverse, the 3rd card, so that they're just in order according to the instructions. We always make the 1st card shown together, and then you can just do 2, 3, and 4 in that order, and everything will visually, hopefully, make some sense. There is a little bit of a different ribbon attachment on both of these, and it was affected by the artwork, so I'm going to do the more challenging ribbon so that you know how I added that. Okay, first we're going to fold here on this card base. If you want, you can round edges, like you could take just this short flap of the card and round that if you wanted to. Same for these panels, can also be rounded. I'm going to round the sentiment and just kind of continue with my protocol for this particular set, so we don't spend too much time rounding corners, but again, I do like that look, and it's just a simple, quick thing, right? Okay, so what I did also, I guess I rounded these too, so I'll just do that and show you. This is so cool. I happen to have a texture embossing folder of tire tracks, so I ran it through this. It wasn't long enough for this, so I ran it through twice. I'm going to skip that because I'm not going to assume that you have a tire track embossing folder, but if you did, go ahead and grab it and add some texture to this strip. It's just so cute. But for now, I'm going to simply add the strip so that it's kind of in the middle of this. Okay. Then I'm not going to round the corners on this situation here, just for a little time savings and to show you the differences and how it looks. It adds, but it's not required. So I'm going to nest this, and then we have our sentiment that I'm going to nest onto the black panel. Okay, and then this will be attached here. Now for the other card where there's no text, you're going to be adding your ribbon at this point before you nest it onto here. But this time I can add my sentiment. Okay, we're gonna have some fun with this ribbon, and to have fun with it, I'm going to use 50% of it on each card. So to be safe, I'll just cut this in half, and of this beautiful silvery ribbon, and then take one of those hexagon shaped charms. Now fold the ribbon in half and thread it through the hexagon, and then you get that loop, right? And then just bring the tails of the ribbon through the loop, just like I did when we made the tag. And then kind of just pull it like so. And then because this was going to be visible, I didn't want to have any ends around the back. So what I did was swung the ribbon around this, and I kind of put it together. I don't really care where that charm ends up, if it's on the left or in the middle or wherever. Take the ends and run it through the charm. So I guess key is to have those ends really even. And grab your stapler and give that a staple. And then I'm going to trim this tail. Cute. Maybe I'll give it another staple. Kind of as an X. X marks the spot. Oh, that's still really cute. It's like I did it on purpose. Okay, so that's how I attach the ribbon on this card. And then when you add adhesive, you just flip it over. So here, flip, right? So that you can see where your adhesive needs to go. Just so that's going to be on the left flap direction. 1/2 inch from the edge and the bottom. Okay, look at that. It's all finished from the back side too. And then I'll add my little sentiment. Make sure it's hidden by this flap. Oh, does that look sharp, right? Super simple. Now I will show you the versions that had the, so this is the one we made together. And I guess I had it flipped around, doesn't really matter. I'd like to plan it so the staple would be on this side. That's all that matters, but this is the one we did. It still is kind of a cool little way to attach ribbon, I think. Here's that tire track. Embossing folder. Now here, it was much simpler. I had 2 separate pieces of ribbon that I just taped to the back, and I had plenty of it to go around. But if you want to divide it into 2, you can, just to make sure you got your bases covered. Retirement card, that's always nice to have on hand. A sympathy, go through a lot of those, and a couple of nice birthdays. Ta-da! That's all there is to it. Well, I hope you like that triple easel card and the fact that we just coasted to the finish line with 2 simple single folded cards. And if you like this theme and you want to be able to make more masculine cards, while they last, I suggest grabbing a sheet of the Freeway stamps. They're clear stamps. They're super durable. They stamp beautifully, and then you can go ahead and make more cards using even these same structures, but with those stamps, or grab extra Cutaparts. You know the drill, right? I hope you know the drill. Speaking of the drill, while you're here, make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel and give me a thumbs up on this video, and maybe leave a comment if you have a moment. I always love to hear from my viewers. And most importantly, if you're not yet subscribed to Club Scrap, I want to invite you to join our fun family. It's a great time. We have a private Facebook chat group you're welcome to participate in, so that you can share what you're learning with your creative friends. Hope to see you there, and I look forward to seeing you in another workshop soon. Bye.